Hey there, how you doing? This is Stormie coming at you, co-founder of Yokel, creator of the world's best buyer persona system, and today we're going to talk about buyer personas marketing in a post-COVID world. This is probably one of the most important presentations that you may come across. We're going to go through it pretty quickly, but we're going to talk about the fact that the world's changed and your old marketing strategies may not cut it anymore. And it may be time to update your buyer personas. Now, some of you may be asking, okay, what is a buyer persona? As a matter of fact, you may have attended a marketing seminar or a webinar. You heard something on Zoom where other marketing professionals were telling you that you need to update your buyer persona because it is an extremely important and hot topic right now. So what is a buyer persona? Sometimes referred to as a customer avatar, but basically a buyer persona is a fictional representation of your ideal client. So with that being said, let's dive into it. And with us diving into it, I want to ask you a couple of questions. First question, do you agree with the following statement? Has the world changed? Has the world changed a bit since the beginning of 2020? Absolutely it's changed, right? The whole world has changed dramatically. So if the world's changed, is it fair to say that maybe you've changed? You know, as a business owner, have you changed your habits? Have you changed your priorities? Maybe things that were important to you at one point aren't quite as important to you today. Is that a real world possibility for some of you? Absolutely. My guess is for you, that probably absolutely is the case. So let's think about the logic here for just a moment. If you've changed since we've entered into this pandemic, is it fair to say that your customers have changed? Absolutely they've changed. You see, it's not just the fact that people are wearing masks. That's not it. We're doing masks to help protect others, protect ourselves, but we've changed because a lot of our priorities have changed. The way we make decisions have changed. It's a different environment out there. So here's what I want to propose to you, that if you have a successful business and you've created this business over the last 10, 20 years, whatever the time frame may be, and it's worked for you. Well, you may be saying, well, you know what? Things will come back. Eventually, they'll get back to the way they were, and I'll be able to go back and do things the way I've always done it. I'm here to tell you that that is probably not the case. You see, whatever our new normal is, which we don't know what it is, but there's a strong possibility that our new normal, once we get past this stuff that we're going through right now, is that it's going to be totally different. So when it comes to the buyer personas, it's all about understanding what is going through their minds right now. You see, when you attracted customers before, or your ideal clients, you may have had a scenario, if you can imagine this, right? You pulled back your arrow or your bow and you let the arrow go and the arrow went, boom. If you targeted a customer, you were able to land the customer. Well, let's just say that if you did that over and over for the last 10 to 20 years and you were very successful at it, let's say if your customer's mind shift have just shifted 1 or 2 degrees. Well, if you keep shooting where you've always shot, you're going to miss it. And for many of you, they've shifted more than 1 to 2 degrees. They're completely in a different field. So that's what we're going to dive into. And here's the one of the very important components that you must understand is how we make decisions. So, when it comes to making decisions, the question I have for you, you may know this, you may not, but do we make decisions based on emotion or do we make it based on logic? Where I'm getting with that is, as it pertains to your customers, as it pertains to the goods and services you offer, do your customers make their decisions based on emotions or do they make those decisions based on logic? Well, fortunately for you, there's lots of studies on this. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go look at Psychology Today or any of the other medical journals that broach this topic. And what it says is, and what it states is that when we make decisions, 80% of our decisions as humans are based on emotions. Now, sometimes we like to think we're logical creatures, so we're like, no, Stormie, I make my decisions based on logic. And that's cool to feel that way. But here's the deal. We make the decisions, your customers make the decisions based on emotions, and then they justify it with logic. That's the rundown. 80% of the time, it's very rare that we make decisions based purely on logic alone. If you want an example of a character from TV that makes decisions based on logic, the best one I can think of is probably Spock from the Star Trek series. Think about Spock or think about Data. Those are individuals that make decisions based on logic, purely on logic, and unless you're that individual, And unless your customers are those individuals, they're making them based on emotion. So it's really, really important that you understand this, is that we make decisions based on emotions. We justify it with logic. So understanding that that's the case, there's something else that we should look into as it pertains to your ideal clients. You see, sometimes we like to, when it comes to traditional buyer personas, a traditional buyer persona thinks about who your customers are, which is very important. But I like to think, especially in today's world, I believe it's more important to understand how your customers think. You see, if you have a lot of demographic data on your ideal client, meaning that your ideal client is a 35-year-old male, drives a minivan, it's got 2.3 kids, making $73,538 a year, and it works as a district manager for a retail store. Well, okay, let's say that's your ideal client. A lot of demographic data there, and it sounds pretty impressive. You're like, those are the people that we want to go after. Well, the scenario is, how does that really help you? I've been involved in many scenarios where an organization is making a buyer persona. They have lots of demographic data, and then I push them let's continue to take this buyer persona forward. And how are you putting that demographic data to work? Now, the demographic data may help with paid advertising, determining who they should put their ads in front of, but beyond that, it's very limited. So there's a better way if you spend your time, your energy, and effort working on and discovering how your customers think. And there's lots of additional benefits to this. See, if you understand how your customers think, it's going to help you create far better messaging, especially in today's world. In the world that we're in today, if you can spend more time, energy, and effort discovering the strengths, the weakness, the pain points, the triggering events, why they're making a decision now versus 6 months from now or 6 months ago, would be very, very valuable to put you in a position to help them and put you in a position where you're in a much better place than your competitors. So buyer personas today are, if you've made buyer personas before, I'm here to tell you that it's not necessarily about the demographics. It's not who your customers are. It's more important to understand how they think. So it's not demographics, it's psychographics. What do I mean by that? Well, if we dive into the next slide, what I want to show you is something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow was a famous psychiatrist that came up with this chart. And what Maslow's hierarchy of needs basically states is that we have these 5 levels of needs. There's physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. So what does he mean by that? Well, if we look at the bottom of the pyramid, our physiological needs are the strongest needs that need to be met before we can move up on the pyramid, meaning that if my physiological needs aren't being met. Now, remember, we just looked at it. So what are the physiological needs? The physiological needs are the needs that need to be met to keep me alive. So I live in Las Vegas. I live in a desert. So picture this scenario for just a moment. Let's say I'm in the market for your goods and services, but I take a trip out to the desert. As a matter of fact, I'm more in the market for your goods and services. I've been dying to get your goods and services. I've been saving up my money. I've got everything in place and I want to buy your goods and services. As a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to buy your products, right? But it's a weekend, it's the day before, and I decide to go to the desert. I drive to Death Valley, which is one of the hottest places on earth, and it's a short drive from where I'm located here in Las Vegas. So I go to the desert, and I'm touring the desert and my car breaks down, right? So now my car breaks down, it's 120 to 130 degrees outside. Well, and I have very limited water. I've got some physiological need deficiencies. Is that a fair statement? Absolutely. I'm freaking out. I'm terrified. I'm in the desert. So let's say if I've been saving for a year to buy your goods and services, and if I have a choice to get water, something that's going to keep me alive, and if I get the water, it's going to eliminate the ability of me buying your goods and services. Which decision do you think I'm going to prioritize? Your goods and services or my physiological needs, getting the water? Absolutely, I'm going to get the water. So that's an extreme example, but I wanted to give you a visualization and help you understand that if someone's physiological needs need to be met before they move up on the pyramid. So once someone's physiological needs are met, well, the other thing that needs to be met are their safety needs. This is about having gainful employment and security, making the right decision if I'm a purchaser for goods and services for my company. I got to make sure I make the right decisions. If I'm not especially if I'm a new company or if I don't have the tenure and things are a little scary. But safety needs have to be met. Then love and belonging to a tribe, and then your esteem, and then self-actualization. So one of the things that I've noticed that has changed prior to COVID, there were some buyers of goods and services that fell into one of these needs being met, and it's shifted. Now what happens if people were making purchases of your goods and services and it was all about esteem? Well, today it may be safety, or it may be love and belonging. It may be a different need that needs to be met. Why is that important? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's important because if you still have messaging that is out of alignment, where you're addressing the wrong set of needs, you're going to have a mismatched messaging, and it's going to put you in a position where you're going to lose out if one of your competitors realizes this, watching this video, and decides to take action before you. You see, there's a saying out there that I absolutely love, and it's not that the big eat the small, it's the fast eat the slow. That's true in nature, and it's true in business. So you have this information. This helps you become fast and more agile to help you make better decisions. So if you're going to start building a buyer persona, you need to take into account Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, you may be saying, okay, Stormie, that's great. How do I do that? I don't know anything about this except what you told me. I'm glad you asked again. We will get into that here shortly. So as we continue here, and what I believe is, and data to support it, is that if you have a scenario to where your sales are unpredictable, unpredictability is not a way to grow your business. We want to get away from unpredictability. So if you have unpredictability in your sales right now, the buyer persona may be one of the driving factors behind that. And when you have unpredictability, typically what happens is when you have unpredictability in sales, instead of going back to the buyer persona, you may have a scenario where you're pushing your salespeople to do more. And you're like, we got to get more sales. We got to get more sales. You've probably been there. You may be doing that right now. You just recently came out of a sales meeting where you were told, or you told your crew, listen, guys and gals, we got to go out there and get sales because things have changed. Well, here's the problem with that. If you haven't looked at your buyer persona, you see that unpredictability, as that starts to happen, it starts manifesting into another problem, and you start becoming this guy. It leads to this pushy sales behavior. You see, if you're really honed in on your buyer persona, you really don't need to be pushy. If you find yourself, or if you have customers saying that these guys and this organization's pushy, it's not great for long-term sustainable growth. So now what happens is you're in the scenario of being pushy. So we have this unpredictability in sales, which leads you to become more pushier than what you should be. And then ultimately what that turns into is, because you start throwing more advertising and marketing dollars, all because you didn't go back to your buyer persona, is you're just burning cash. You're burning cash because now you're throwing more ads, more marketing, more salespeople to be pushy because you think that's the answer, but there's a messaging mismatch. That is the problem. You see, when you go back to the buyer's persona, what it helps you do is it helps you refine your messaging, especially the world that we're in today. So this way you find yourself, you find yourself in a position to where you have predictable sales. That's what you want to do. You want to take yourself from the other areas that we talked about, and you find yourself to having more predictable sales. Having a solid buyer persona in place and crafting your messaging for your buyer personas helps with predictability. And guess what happens? When you have predictable sales, your salespeople are generally much, much more efficient when you share this buyer persona information with them, but they become more efficient in regards to what they do. And if your salespeople are more efficient, they're hitting their sales goals. Well, now what happens is you become trusted in the marketplace, especially when it comes to consumers of your goods and services that aren't familiar with your goods and services. So when it comes to acquisition, it really helps a lot. So if you have predictable sales and you're trusted, guess what happens there? Profitability. Yeah, it helps the bottom line. It helps you get to profitability, and that's what we're talking about. That's why you're in business, right? That's where we're getting to. See, so here at Yokel, we have three models. When people work with us, we either have models to where we do it for you. Our organization, we can do it with you, or we teach you. And that's what we're doing right now in the video. I'm teaching you. But we do have some people that says, listen, I don't want to be taught. I don't want you to do it with me. I want you to do it for you. Okay, that's great. That's what we do. And at Yokel, we've been around for 10 years. I'm going to drop off the sales pitch. You can look us up. We've got some phenomenal reviews of organizations that we help. But this is part of the Teaching You series, teaching you how to do it, and you need to look in the buyer persona. So what are some resources that you can dive into in the Teach You series? Well, one of the things you can do is you can reach out to us and ask for a free consultation by clicking the link. Ask for a free 30-minute consultation, and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction. You may say, you know what, I don't want to reach out to you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want a sales pitch. Well, guess what you can do? You can go spend $20 on Amazon. This is the book that I wrote. It's called The World's Best Buyer Persona System. It takes our methodology and I put it in book format. As a matter of fact, the methodology within this book is so solid, and Intercon named me one of the top 50 tech visionaries on the planet because of the information that's in this book. So for $20, probably one of the best investments you can get. You can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. And within the book, we have lots of worksheets for you that you can go and download them for free. So we walk you through the process. Check out the reviews. The book's only been out for since July, so it was very timely. All 5-star reviews. It was an Amazon bestseller. But this is another route that you can get us to help you without speaking to anyone within our organization. So what's the purpose of today's meeting or this presentation? The purpose of this presentation is this. If you don't take your buyer persona seriously, and if you don't start reworking your buyer persona now, I'm afraid for you. I'm afraid that you may find out that you're just going to be more noise in the marketplace, and unfortunately, there's too much noise out there right now. Remember the saying I shared with you? It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eats the slow. So let's not be slow. Let's dive into this. Once again, this is Stormie with Yokel, creator of the world's best buyer persona. And listen, if you got value out of this video, subscribe to this channel because I'm going to kick out more videos in this free video series. Also like it, because what that will do is that will help others find this video. With that being said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And in the comment section, if there's a topic that you want me to talk on, type it in the comment section because I want to tackle that topic and help you take your business to the next level. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.